The Palestinian people are the enemy that Israel should be fighting against in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank if Israel decides to stop pretending that that is not the enemy. But that is not the only enemy that Israel has. And much like with the Palestinian people, Israel refuses to believe that its enemies are its enemies, that they want to exterminate the Jews, even though they keep saying it and doing whatever they can, which might not be much, but they do whatever they can in order to further that goal. And they do it whenever they can and however they can. So with the Palestinians, um, it was rockets, it was stabbing attacks. In the past, it was suicide bombings until that became more difficult to carry out. Then it was October 7th when they planned something ahead and managed to do it with Hezbollah. It's rocket attacks with the constant looming threat of much more. And if Israel responds and Israel doesn't fully respond, the Houthis first fired towards Israel. They fired rockets or missiles. They fired missiles in back in October, I believe it was, maybe a couple of weeks after October 7th. And uh, Israel has not responded. Israel has not responded other than shooting down the missiles. Most of them, I think one actually hit an open field, so it doesn't count because nobody got hurt. Um, but yeah, last night they took it to the next level. They managed to get a drone through flying around through Sinai from the Mediterranean into Tel Aviv, so Israel wasn't prepared. Didn't the radars didn't pick it up. They didn't know it was coming. It hit a building in Tel Aviv close enough to the American consulate in Tel Aviv, what used to be the embassy, to make it seem like it that may have been the target, but it did hit a building and one person was killed, several people were injured. This was not a big warhead because wanted that they wanted the drone to fly the 2,000 plus kilometers that were needed in order to get there. But it does show it's a show of force, and it's more proof of something we already have enough proof of, that Israel is surrounded by savages who would do anything to exterminate the Jews and are doing a lot. And Israel is again not doing enough to fight back and considered by the world to be the aggressor, the bad guy, and the country, as we saw in a ruling earlier today at the International Court of Justice, which we'll talk about tomorrow, its very existence is the problem. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm joined by James Valliant. James, your thoughts on this attack and on Israel's response or lack thereof?
A man is dead. At least eight others are injured. This devastated a residential building. I don't know if the U.S. Facility, it was close to the coast too, because I think that's how they got it in. But you know something, Razi? I, for one, after reading the New York Times this morning on it and NBC news outlet on it, I, for one, am sick of Israel getting attacked. And you know, it was like when all those hundreds of Iranian missiles and rockets came through. Israel let that Bedouin girl get injured, and I'm really getting sick and tired of it. Now, if that sounds like a perverse joke, that is the perverse joke that our media has become, blaming Israel for not being able to stop every single attack. It is absurd. Now, I'm not saying that Israel is doing things right. I'm just saying that it is bizarre and absurd that the world looks at it that way, that it's somehow Israel's fault for not shielding itself 100% from aggressive attacks from multiple sides. How many thousands of missile attacks have come in from Hezbollah in the north, displacing over 150,000 Israelis? You know, Israel better displace more people in Tel Aviv. I think obviously the fault here is Israel's own fault for not completely evacuating Tel Aviv and the area around the U.S. consulate. Now, that's the kind of perverse logic that is used when it comes to Israel. And you're right. Both Israel and the United States refuse to acknowledge what's really going on: a coordinated, systematic attack from Iran and Iran's proxies. This includes Hezbollah. This includes the Hezbollah affiliates in Syria and Iraq. This includes the Houthis. And America and Israel better just get their head out of whatever their head is in, so that they recognize what the threat is. But in so doing, they give moral credence to the argument that somehow, Israel should be 100% perfect in their ability to fend off these. And if they're not, because inevitably something's going to get through. If Israel gets, I mean, since October 7th, how many hundreds of rockets have come from Hamas and Gaza? How many missiles from Hezbollah and Lebanon? How many attacks from the Houthis? And then that giant attack, as I say, from Iran directly upon Israel. Directly upon Israel. How many attacks? Of course, some is going to get through. Something's going to get through. I understand this was high tech they probably got from Iran, although the Houthis themselves are saying it was of their manufacture. But no, this was obviously a clever attack. Obviously, it needs to be looked into. Yes, obviously, whatever defenses need to be shored up need to be shored up. But that's not the issue. They were able to get this drone in via the Mediterranean. So that, but I understand it may have been noticed as well. There may have been a communications breakdown. Well, that's going to happen too. To blame Israel for the attacks as such shows that where their biases are. They're anti-Israel. Israel's the bad guy, even when it defends itself, if it's not able to perfectly defend itself in every instance, which is impossible, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there was you mentioned the media coverage, an episode that we may have done if it wasn't for other news stories coming up, is something with this moment where a BBC interviewer a few days ago asked a guest about, or said to a guest, well, Hezbollah is only attacking because of concern for how many Palestinian civilians are being killed. I mean, we have a government news channel in this country that is literally defending Hezbollah in a way, and I don't think Hezbollah itself would argue it. I mean, it isn't what they argue. They want Israel wiped off the map, um, and yeah. So that's the
As
news
you
coverage
pointed
we
out,
get.
the attack, as you pointed out, the attacks from Hezbollah and the Houthis began, well, way back in October.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with what's happened over the months subsequent. It was in solidarity for the Hamas atrocities of October 7th, in perfect coordinated attack. I can only imagine it was coordinated and permitted from Iran, which supplies all of these people anyway. And as I
Yeah.
say, until Israel and America realizes that they are fully engaged in a war with Iran right now, only one side seems to be aware of that, and the other side better get hip to that, as I keep repeating. But yeah, no, this was solidarity for atrocities. This wasn't because they were concerned about so-called civilian deaths in Gaza.
Uh,
Totally.
Thank you, Robert, for the super chat. Robert says, comment neutered, but you know what I'd say. I don't know exactly. So if you want to text it to me and I will read it out, unless you're not able to post it. Victoria says, I have a stupid question with regards to the missile safe rooms. Will legislation be changed to include safety against terrorism on the ground? Well, it's not a stupid question. It's a good question about a stupid policy, which is the policy of we will, come up with new. I mean, look, Israel, we've said, is number 2 in the world in number of patents registered, number 1 in per capita patents, and Israelis will come up with ways that make it more difficult to kill them. But nothing is foolproof except eliminating the killers. If you eliminate the killers, they cannot kill you. And this is not something Israel is willing to do. So I don't have an answer to the question about legislation about safe rooms in houses, but it doesn't matter. That's not what should be done. What should be done is to identify the enemies of Israel and the people who want to exterminate the Jews and make it impossible for them to do so.
Safe rooms are absolutely I mean, it's almost like the poster child for the perversion of all this. You are not going to solve the problem with greater defense, with a more secure Iron Dome shield or something. No, you have to destroy the enemy. You have to incapacitate the enemy. You have to kill the enemy. Only when you start doing that, when you put the bad guys on their heels, when you destroy the enemy's capacity, only that will do it. When we talk about safe rooms, when we talk about reliance on the iron shield, we've got it all wrong from the outset. From the outset. Now, I'm not saying that the technology isn't wonderful and that we should use whatever technology we have to protect people. Of course, the Israelis are the good guys, and America and Israel should put all their focus on technology to protect innocent people. On the other hand, if that's your strategy, you've already lost. If you're not taking it straight to the enemy just as harshly as you can, you're not doing what is required to protect those people in the first instance.
Yeah, yeah, and as you mentioned, look, the North has been under attack, and so Israel said, "Well, just don't live there. Uh, yeah, live somewhere else until Hezbollah becomes really nice people who don't want to kill all the Jews." That's not the official policy of Israel, but that is the de facto policy. And
Why not
yeah,
include
Tel
Tel
Aviv.
Aviv?
Yeah,
Why not
so
include Tel Aviv? No, no
now
civilians in Tel Aviv.
it's one drone on Tel Aviv, and it could be more. I mean, certainly if Israel doesn't respond militarily, it absolutely will be more. And yeah, the question is, when you hear anti-Semites around the world in those protests say the Jews should go back to Poland, they specify usually Poland because Poland is where so many Jews were exterminated. So that's a good place to go. They don't say go back to Yemen, by the way. Yemen is also a place where Jews can no longer live, and so move to Israel, and is proof of why the state of Israel is necessary. But yeah, it looks like Israel's policy is kind of in line with those anti-Semites who say go back to Poland. Eventually, you will run out of space if everything from Eilat to the very north of Israel is under threat of missiles. Nowhere is safe, and yeah, what do you expect eventually will happen? Um,
I
just
would just point out
quickly on
America. I'm sorry.
just
America
quickly
was
on
just
policy failure is expensive's comment. Has the ARCUK set up payment systems that do not go through YouTube? I mean, we have membership, which is the pinned comment on this and almost every show. But yeah, for super chats and memberships, and look, we're fans of YouTube. They have provided us with this platform. We don't agree with much of with every single one of their policies, but it has been a great platform for us. But of course, we encourage people to become memberships, and we're gonna have some sort of a membership pitch later. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But James.
Yeah, I was just about to say America 2 days ago was boasting about an attack on the Houthis. We can see just how effectual America's attacks on the Houthis are in protecting international shipping in Israel. They aren't. America isn't doing what's required to protect international shipping or Israel. And like I say, the Houthis are only, the middleman. It's Iran. It's that evil regime in Tehran. And I know I may sound like a broken record, but I will continue to sound like a broken record until America and Israel, gets a clue and realizes they have been at war with one of the most evil regimes to exist on this planet for some time now, and they're not recognizing it. For fear of escalation, for fear of whatever else, that it's the Iranian mullahs who should be afraid of escalation, not us.
Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Thank you, Christian, for the super chat. Christian asks, is the IDF still able to fight on many fronts? Gaza war still going, Lebanon to come. Now those drones from Yemen, I'm worried. Do they have enough soldiers, material, etc.? No, not as long as they fight the way they're fighting now in Gaza. I mean, they can't fight multiple wars on or a war on multiple fronts in this way. They can't even fight that one war in this way and achieve the goals of the war. So what they need to do is drop a few more bombs like the one that were dropped on Mohammed Def last Saturday. Drop them throughout Gaza, wherever any operation is necessary, uh, maybe, I guess, with the exception of rescuing hostages, and drop them in Lebanon where there is no risk of any hostages being held. Drop them on Beirut, not just on the south of Lebanon. Make Lebanon pay for what it is allowing from its territory, because Lebanon does actually have an army and a police force, and they can enforce the law. And if you just shoot somebody randomly in Beirut, you will get in trouble. So, but if you shoot from Lebanon into Israel, you won't. So
No, no, no,
make
no, no.
Lebanon pay for it and tell them, look, we will stop bombing Beirut if you stop the bombing of Israel from your territory. And then, yes, then they can do the same with the Houthis. And ultimately, what has to happen with Iran is Israel needs to I've said this before. I think Israel needs to say to America, look, we need you in on this. We can do it on our own, but what we'll have to use to do it on our own, you're not going to like. That would be my policy towards how to fight, how to
Well,
finish this war.
no, Razi, you see, Hezbollah can violate the rules about where to attack Israel from. But if Israel goes north of that river, if Israel hits Beirut, you know they will be the ones accused of violating the quote rules. There ain't no international rules here, ladies and gentlemen, and they're only ever applied against Israel whenever they are recognized. But you're absolutely correct. We have to ignore the rules and we have to attack north of the river and north of that southern zone because Beirut is a government and they're permitting Hezbollah to operate as they are. And Hezbollah is very well supplied by Iran with far more sophisticated missiles than Hamas, for example. No, you're absolutely right. We have to take it straight to the Lebanese government, just as we have to take it straight to the government in Iran. That's the only thing that's going to fix this.
Also, I mean, I hate to say that this because this should be done anyway, but Netanyahu uses Biden as an excuse for inaction. He did that on October 7th itself when his defense minister wanted to act preemptively in Lebanon, and he said, no, Biden won't let me. And that has been his excuse since then with everything, with not doing enough in Gaza, with not doing enough in response to the Iranian attack. I think the turmoil in US politics is, you know, if this is really the reason, then Netanyahu now has an opportunity. Biden is out of it. The party the ruling party in the US is really in turmoil. They are more going to be more concerned about picking their last minute nominee and trying to convince themselves that maybe it's okay to go with Kamala Harris. And look, there's certainly going to be drama in that party. All this is I'm assuming that Biden is out, and that he's out in very very soon, and that between now and the convention they're not going to deal with Israel much. It's not that they're not going to deal with Israel, but they're going to be busy with that. The American people, the majority of Americans support Israel, and that is something else to use. If Kamala Harris, whoever is next in line, is too anti-Israel, that could be something that will be used against her. So, yeah, enough with the excuses, and you have less of them now, and just do it. Thanks, Jonathan, for the super chat. James?
You make a really great point. Netanyahu ignore anything coming out of Washington, D.C. right now. There is no coherent voice coming out of Washington, D.C. right now, and there won't be for some weeks. The Democratic National Convention won't even be nominating a new candidate for another month. For another month. Please, Netanyahu, use any of the sounds emitting from that doddering old man who is about to get booted as the candidate for his party. Ignore it altogether. Now is a good opportunity to ignore any restraints that you felt from, unfortunately, those have been real It's been disgusting how Biden and Blinken have sanctioned, coddled, and appeased the real bad guys here and put pressure on Netanyahu. But please, please, Prime Minister Netanyahu, ignore everything coming out of Washington, D.C. now. I know we're your biggest ally. We're practically, and I put ally in quotes even, but I know we're the closest thing to a friend you have. But please, we are in turmoil. Now is your chance to do something real, real in southern Lebanon, real against the Houthis. Absolutely.
Well, what I would ask Netanyahu is to do a Biden and mumble his way out of office because he has done enough. I don't trust him to do anything right. And again, like I look at Israeli media today after this attack, and they're talking about a response, possibly even in Yemen. Like how do you get attacked by a country and say, well, you know what, we might respond against the very country that attacked us, the very people who shot this drone. What are you saying to them by saying this is a maybe, even if you end up doing it? And what are you saying to your other enemies? There's the message Israel sends with something like the elimination of Mohammed Deif, and there's the message Israel sends when Tel Aviv is attacked from the air, and there is no response.
Well, that's it. That's it. You know, they're going to get clever technology from the Iranians. They're going to get some of this through. Innocent civilians will die. I mean, my God, you say you're not going to respond? What would it take? What would it take to get a government to respond and do its duty as you don't use the word duty, do its moral responsibility to its own people and protect them? That is the function of government. That is the full sole legitimate function of government is to protect its people from force. Um, it's disgusting. It's disgusting the way it's, oh, well, but my government has, you know, when US bases get attacked in Jordan and Syria, what do? Nothing. Nothing. We're not going after the Hezbollah affiliates or Iran, even when US soldiers get killed and badly injured. Even when international trade is stopped in the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea, what do we do about the Houthis? You know, America's supposed to be the leader of the free world here, protecting the free countries. Well, what are we doing? We're doing nothing about the Houthis, even when they disrupt trade, international trade through the Red Sea. It's despicable.
Let me address a few things in the chat. The latest ICJ ruling, that is going to be the topic of tomorrow's episode of the Daily Objective. We'll talk about it then. Um, uh, Biden is going to resign or drop out of the race for president of the United States. I assume that's true. There's all sorts of constitutional issues. Like he needs to resign. Like he can't get kicked out. Otherwise, he would not be the candidate at this point. And there's a comment: Israel is not run by the government; it's run by the Supreme Court. I have some stuff to say about that. But yeah, constitutional law is an important issue, which is a big reason why the new course we have the new course by James Valliant on the Constitution. That course is for the highest paying members. It is on Thursdays, but we have been asked how people can access it, and I do think it needs to be. It's expensive. It takes a lot, and it should be expensive. But we are now, in large part because of this, we've launched a new YouTube membership level that's much more expensive than the current one. The current one is still available, but nowhere near as expensive as how much you need to pay to become a member through the website. And there you will get access to the live streams of the sessions. You will get access to the recordings for a week. If you sign up now, because it's new, you get access to the first few for the next few weeks. You get access to our production meetings on Mondays and to our Substack, which is launching next week, and it's going to be a paid Substack. You will get access to that. So it costs a lot, and you get a lot for it. I recommend and encourage people to consider doing that. Look, the world is not going in a good direction. So in large part, what you're doing by becoming a member at a higher level is also helping us push back. We need to push back a lot because we're at a disadvantage. But oh yeah, and Daniel reminds me that what you also get is 1 month access each month for something we've done in the past. The first one is a mock trial that we did with Matthew Humphreys as my defense attorney. I was playing an environmentalist activist. James Valliant is the prosecutor who wanted to send me to prison. Mark Pellegrino was his um, witness. And well, I'm not going to tell you what happened, but we can see this clip. I think this should convince everybody to sign up. This is me being an environmentalist. That's my, all right, we've seen enough. But that's what my image of what an environmentalist is. All right. Back
It
to
was great fun, and you really want to check it out, people.
yeah.
It's well, that alone is well worth it.
It was a lot of fun, and look, we don't have that much fun on shows because of what we're talking about, because of where the world is headed, and we will continue to cover where the world is headed. I mean, look, the fact that if you looked at social media yesterday, after last night, after the attack, and today, you will see the people who celebrate, people celebrating the same people who are talking about a genocide and how horrible Israel is to they're celebrating. So remember, when somebody talks to you, somebody who's pro-Palestinian talks to you about women and children and genocide and civilians and all that bullshit, remember, they are pro-violence, they are pro-death, they're pro-causing humans as much misery as possible. They'd rather do that to Jews. I'm sure, would like to do that to Americans. It's they don't like the their kind, the killers are being killed because that, as I mentioned, that prevents future killings, and it's not good for them.
Well, that's exactly it. Their goal is clear, ladies and gentlemen. The genocidal intent is on one side. On one side, if Israel had wanted to depopulate the West Bank and Gaza, they could have done it months ago. No, instead, they're feeding them. We never have we been told such a bizarre lie. Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran want Israel destroyed and every Jew in the area killed. And when they're done with that, they'll come after America and civilization as such.
Yeah, WUB, that was not cabbage, that was lettuce. I don't know why everybody thinks it's cabbage. That was a ball of lettuce or whatever the word is for lettuce. I don't typically buy lettuce, but I did use ARCUK's entire props budget for that episode. Um, all right. So we're gonna continue talking about this on the reality show, and we're gonna be talking about how Israel got itself to this position, because it is Israel that is at fault. Of course, the Houthis are at fault and need to be destroyed, but Israel is at fault for not acknowledging that this is coming when the people who did it told you it's coming. James, I'm not actually sure if you're joining me tomorrow for the Daily Objective, but if you are, that's great. And if not, somebody else will join me, and we will be talking about today's ruling in the ICJ. Tomorrow's, I believe the title is Breaking News: Lebanese Judge Rules Against Israel. Make sure you tune in for that, and make sure you tune in for the reality show that starts in a couple of minutes. Thank you, James. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Be safe.